Hey guys, what's going on? This is Rick the Middle Class Marine. I'm bringing you guys another project today. Today we're going to be putting in a gravel garden bed to extend out my garden bed out to about the window well. The reason for it is I have sprinklers hitting my basement window here and getting into the window well, so I want to extend the gravel garden bed out a ways so we don't have sprinklers hitting in there. Plus it'll create a nice flow out to the AC condenser. We'll have it nice all symmetried out. We're going to be putting in landscape lighting and a old cast stone fountain in as well. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, first things first, we're gonna go ahead and get all the river rock out of here. I will be reusing the river rock because I have a screen to clean the dirt off of it, so we'll be scooping that out. Get all the stuff out of the way, of course. I might reuse some of the staples, even though they are a little rusty. But I'm gonna let the bugs crawl off this thing first before I pull the staples out. We're obviously not reusing the landscape paper that's gonna be thrown away. All right, we went ahead and got the gravel removed. You notice I marked the perimeter of the garden bed with the twine. I'm gonna go ahead and take an edger out and I'm gonna cut the perimeter on it and we're gonna get that grass shoveled out. We're also gonna go an inch outside the line a little bit because we have to make accommodations for those scallops. They're gonna go outside the line just a hair. All right, we got the garden bed dug out. However, I want to go down a little bit deeper so I have enough gravel on top to smooth out the surface. So I'm going to take the garden claw, go around here and take about an inch off the top, and we should be good, ready to put in the scallops and get weed paper put in. All right, now that we've got the garden claw, we got it all tilled up, we're gonna go ahead and rake it up and scoop it in the wheelbarrow. Let it dry a little bit too, because it was pretty wet the other day. All right, as you can see here, we got it all leveled out. We got it down to the level that we want so we can put in the weed paper. But before we do that, we got to get the scallops put in. And the first things first is we got to get this cut out of here so I can get the scallop rested up against here. Now, we got a few options for cutting this out. The old school way is you can get some shears, cut it up along here and cut it out that way and then sand it flat, or you can chisel it out. Both are going to take time. However, I have a better option that I have available to me, and this is the oscillating tool. We're going to try this out, see if it works. Mind you, this will dull your blade, so I'd use an old blade. There we go, and I would have barely been getting started with the shears. Okay, as you can see here, we got the scallops all the way out. Pretty straight to the eye. The general rule is if it looks good, it is good. We're going to be reusing some of the old scallops that are broken here. I'm going to be making some cuts on them. And then we're going to be doing this bed over here. I don't think I need to show you guys that part, but we're going to be utilizing as many used scallops as we can to avoid buying more of them. They were not cheap. To buy just this little stretch from here to here, and these here was like 40 something dollars. So I saved a good 40 bucks just having half of these given to me for free. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and make some cuts with this masonry saw. Now I understand for many of you on a budget, you're not gonna have a masonry saw. You got three options with this. The first option is you can either buy one. I don't recommend that. This happens to be a family members of mine. They got this at a discount at Lowe's. I guess it was a returned item, so they got this at, I don't know how much off, but they were able to get that. So I'm borrowing it from them. The other option is you can rent one. They do have places where you can rent this tool if you're doing a big job. Just make sure you return it at the end of the day. The other option, though, if you can't afford either of those, is you can break the stone using a chisel. You'll need to buy yourself a chisel like this. You'll want to use a speed square and a mini sledge, and what you're going to do is you'll make your mark. You use your speed square, mark all four corners of the stone. You're then going to take your mini sledge, line your chisel up, and just slowly tap all the way around 360 around that stone over and over and over again, and it eventually will break where you want it. The secret to that is, though, because I've done it many times, you want to do it slowly. The more time you take to split the stone, the better that break is going to be. If you hurry too much, you're going to get a piece like this one here where it broke all janked. I don't know if it was broken because it got removed this way, but typically if you don't break it correctly, it'll break like this if you speed it up too much. I'm not going to be showing that here. However, I will link a video to something I saw similar. I think the video's still up in the video's description of a guy. He's breaking a stone similar to this. He'll show you that process. All right, here's our cold cut masonry saw. We're gonna be making our cut right about here. We have a little sled mechanism. It's gonna allow us to slide it in there. First things first, I highly recommend hearing protection. This one's kind of nice. This one comes with a laser and a light. There we go, there's a laser. And a light for you to see your cut, which is nice. A lot of rentals you may get may not be as nice, just a heads up on that. Also, when it comes to cleaning this later after you're done, you wanna use a sponge and some dish soap. The masonry dust will actually kind of stick to the plastic and stuff and leave a gooey mess. So if you end up renting one of these, I recommend cleaning it that way, because if not, they're gonna hit you usually with a cleaning fee. So without further ado, let's get this lined up, get our hearing protection on. I love this laser because I don't even have to mark it with a Sharpie or a stone, so it's pretty nice. Or chalk, that way I would recommend chalk. If you got chalk, like colored chalk or something. All right, that's where we want it. So we're gonna turn it on, we're gonna let the water flow first, get the water flowing, then we're slowly gonna run the blade into it. We don't wanna force it. It takes a while for this to cut, so. There we go, see the water? Make that cut. Nice smooth cut. And by the way, when you're breaking this with the chisel, you're not gonna get as smooth of a cut as this. You're gonna get kind of something like this, but at least it'll be on the line that you're wanting to cut. So just a heads up on that. All right, as you can see, we've got a wall already built right here that I'm getting ready to put in here. This is the last of the scallops that were given to me, including the scrap. We're gonna have one piece we're gonna need to cut, but you can see we have enough to make this corner angle here. The bad news is we don't have teeth right here to hold these together. For these two sections right here, we do here, and here I mean. So here and back here we don't. One option that I may end up doing, even though I'm gonna fill the other side in with gravel, is I could run a stake into the earth behind it to act as a brace Yes, stakes rot over time, but the stake that thick isn't going to rot away in a few years out here. So that is an option you could do to prevent this from wanting to fall over in time, since the earth down here is lower than up here. So we're going to want to put this stone in first. This is going to be the pretty side. We want a reference point for when we run this wall out here. It's going to connect to it right about here, so at the end right here. So we're going to want to put this piece in first. You see it went right in there. I had to cut the tooth off of the end of that, but other than that, it fit pretty snug. It's not going to be perfect though. Of course, one way you can get around that, I can push this in a little bit. I can push this out a little bit. We want to try to get rid of as much gappage as we can, just because even though I'm putting weed paper in, we don't want vegetation getting in there and causing problems later. So just a little stuff like that to be mindful of. But other than that, I'm quite happy with it. Turned out pretty good. And I got a little bit done over there. I just have a few more scallops to buy and then we're done. We're ready to put down the weed paper. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and put down the weed paper. We got everything cleared out here. This is gonna be pretty straightforward. I have some scrap laying around. I should be able to utilize this without having to buy any more. Again, if you guys need to go to the store and buy some of this, take measurements with the tape measure, calculate the square footage, and then make sure you get the square footage that you need. That way you don't have a bunch of extra left over. I also am going to be reusing some of the landscape staples. So what we're going to do is, it's almost like perfect dimensions here. We're just going to roll this out and then staple it in place, and then I'll cut the excess out with the scissors and the utility knife. Once we staple it down with the dead blow hammer, you can also use a rubber mallet. You could use a normal hammer with this. However, you're probably just going to bend them and tear them up as opposed to running them into the dirt. So just be mindful of that. All right, so as you can see, we pretty much have ran out of weed paper here. We're gonna have to get some more. So in the meantime, I'm gonna try to get what scrap I can from here, cutting along this edge right here, as you can see, this lip. Try to get it squared up the best I can, then I'm gonna take my utility knife and cut along there, so. All right, so I went ahead, I had to get some more weed paper. They do make smaller bundles than this one, but they weren't as long, and I don't want to have to double it up. I like that this is the perfect width for me to just roll it out. Plus, I'm going to be using this in a project later on, but they do make smaller rolls than this, about a third or so smaller than this, or a quarter or so. If you need to save some money and get something smaller, they have those for you. So, and I also picked up a bunch of staples for using this later. I do have another garden project, like I said, utilizing this. So, go ahead and get this finished up here. Okay, as you can see, I got the weed barrier, weed paper down. It's not perfect, but you can see I plugged little holes here and there. Got it done over here. So real quick, if you guys are gonna put plants in the ground here, now would be a good time to cut your holes out, figure out where you're gonna put them. We're gonna be putting pavers on top of the weed paper, on top of gravel. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're not gonna be putting anything inside the soil. It's gonna be flower pots on top of pavers that we're gonna be putting up. So, another thing too, when you're done with the roll and you still got excess left over, hang on to it, you might need it. And go ahead and take some painter's tape and tape the leftover staples to it and store it away. All right, as you can see, we got everything ready to go. We're getting ready to put rock on. Don't mind the landscape lighting. I put that in a separate video. I'll put that down below in the video description or a card here on the screen for that, because that's definitely not within a budget constraint. That was pretty expensive of an install. So that video will be coming out 2 weeks from this video, so check it out. But we're gonna go ahead and reuse some of the rock that we have, and we're gonna have to get some more, and I'll show you guys that process. So as you can see here, we got some river rock. It's pretty dirty. I did have a tarp underneath it, a shot tarp. As you can see, it didn't cover it all the way. So we're gonna be getting all that over there, but it is pretty dirty. So we have this screen here. I borrowed this from my family member. It is homemade. You can tell they took old 2x4s and bought some screen. You can get it at a local hardware store here, and stapled it up along here. So turns out pretty nice. So the plan is I'm gonna scoop it up in here, stick it in the screen, rinse it off with the hose, and then when I'm done, lift up and load it in the wheelbarrow. So it'll take a little bit more time than normally scooping it up, but this pile should be gone pretty quickly and relatively clean when we put it in the bed over there. So let's get started. Well, it turned out pretty good, a lot cleaner now. It seems like just by putting the rock on there and just moving around with your hands, you can get a lot of the debris out instead of using irrigation water. So I put the water away, because all it does is get the grass to stick to the rocks instead of actually knocking it away. You're better off just laying it on there dry and just kind of moving it around. So we're gonna go ahead and scoop it in the bed. All right, for those of you who are wondering, I went and got some river rock. Got it by the cubic yard. I got a half a cubic yard, so I paid for a whole cubic yard. I'm going to come back later. But if you're wondering what a half a cubic yard looks like, this is roughly how much it is. Give you a side comparison. Here's the normal shovel. Here's my hand. Well, you get the point. I recommend scooping out this rock, getting yourself a shovel with a square edge. I'm borrowing this from a family member. A normal shovel will still work. I've unloaded river rock with a normal shovel before, no big deal. Another thing to mention too, you can get it by the bag or you can get it by the cubic yard. It just depends on how much you want. So I need quite a bit. It's a lot cheaper to get it by the cubic yard. Like I said, this isn't a full-size pickup truck. This is a 99 Dakota pickup truck, and it can barely hold half a cubic yard, so just be mindful of that. The bags are only a good option if you got a sedan and you don't have a lot of rock, because they're in a bag. It'll prevent your car trunk from getting really dirty. So all right, we got all the rock down. Looks pretty good, as you guys can see here, and we got some over there. Looks nice. All right, we're gonna start with putting the first big large paver slab right here. That's where the fountain's gonna go, and then we'll start building it out from there. We're gonna kind of somewhat bury it, but first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and mark my center point. All right, that's the center point. We're gonna center it between these 2 points here. We got our big stone here. We're gonna try to somewhat submerge it. We're gonna go off about 6 inches off the wall here. We need to go up there, and we need to go up quite a bit right there. Side. When it comes to leveling this out, basically the smaller rock you have, the easier it is. The larger rock, the harder it is. But once you set it, it's pretty stable. Yeah, she don't want to go anywhere. Cool. All right, you can see we got them set. They're ready to go. The fountain's ready to go in. You know, it's not perfect, but the saying goes, if it looks good, it is good. So, all right, we're gonna be putting in this concrete fountain. This is a pretty old fountain, just to let you guys know what it is. It's a, what they call concrete or stone cast fountain, so it's really heavy. It's made by Milwaukee Concrete Studios. This is number 221, made in 1984. You can see it's the same stand right there. Even though this one says number 321, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But anyway, I got a pump on order. It hasn't came in today. Real quick, these things are designed to basically last forever. They will go through a million pumps before these go bad. However, I will say this has definitely seen its better days. I will be probably restaining this fall and getting it looking pretty. I'll be probably making a video on that down the road. You'll see it in the video's description when it comes out. But in the meantime, we're gonna get this assembled, get the pump working on it, and I'll show you guys that process, and we'll get it running. All right, here comes the not so fun part. This fountain's heavy. Try not to crack the paver that it's on. Alrighty, line it up the best we can. Cool. Go ahead and get the top part. By the way, if you have back problems of any sort, I highly recommend you get 2 people to do this. Because they make some a lot bigger and a lot heavier than this. So, all right, we got enough space behind the outlet there. Line it up the best we can. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, so it needs to go the right just a hair. Last piece. This one's a blessing because this one doesn't weigh near as much. It's got your little port on the back there. Gonna put it in position here. I'll probably clean the bottom part before I get the pump put in, of course. So, there you go. So that's nice. It blocks that off pretty well. What do you think? Now it is kind of a safety hazard for kids. I will be down the road once I figure out how to clean this thing out without dumping it out. I'll probably be gluing it down with the construction adhesive so kids can't grab this and knock it off and chop their toes off. So just be mindful on that. We'll probably move it back a little bit more once I get everything plugged in. I'll probably scoot it back a little bit more. All right, well, we're busy waiting for the pump to show up because it's been late. We're gonna be installing this smart landscape plug to control it, or a timer switch. I was planning on picking up a normal timer plug. However, this was only a few dollars more. I paid a little over 20 bucks for this, so I decided to pick it up. It's going to use the HubSpace app. I think it's the Home Depot's smart app. Haven't used it before. I'll be going more into detail on the HubSpace app on my landscape lights video that I'll be doing later, because those lights also utilize it as well. So we're going to go ahead and get this hooked up and get it running. All right, enough waiting. The pump finally came in. It comes with some tubing, which is nice. It's pretty long in my opinion. I think we're gonna cut it. I got myself some hose clamps, 1/2-inch hose clamps, and a pipe cutter I use for cutting PEX pipe. Might be useful for cutting this tube. If not, you could probably use some scissors. All right, I'm gonna set this up in real time real quick. Get the stuff out of here. I verified the pump would fit in there. It does. We're gonna set it over to the lowest setting to start out. Actually, looks like I can see, so it's hard to see here, but you can see there's a little hole on each side where the water would flow. So if you set it to nothing, I don't even think any water, no, it looks like a little water can get through. I just don't know if I'd want to burn up the pump. But it's designed to be adjustable, so if it is, I don't think they'd set it up deliberately to where, you know, it would burn up the pump. You got 3 different hose sizes, which is kind of nice. We're doing the 1/2-inch. That's what we have on the bottom of the statue there. I might check out those instructions a little bit later. You never know, there's sometimes good information in there, believe it or not. Screw that on. I don't know if I need a Teflon tape or not. Brief look here. Safety instructions, problem solved. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you. So anyway, all right, enough of me overthinking that. Power cord there. Alrighty, so first things first, get our hose clamp. You don't have to have a hose clamp, I don't think. I've used pumps before, but it's a nice thing to have. You can use a flathead screwdriver or a hex head screwdriver. I have a hex head, speeds it up. We're just gonna clamp this end down. We're not gonna clamp the other end down because we're probably gonna have to cut the hose, potentially. This is actually pretty thin tubing. I was expecting it to be a little bit more, how to describe it? A little bit more solid. It's more like a silicone. It's really spongy, like the silicone you put around your bathtub or whatever. I don't like the kinks in there. Hopefully they work their way out, but we'll find out. If not, I can always get more hose at the hardware store. It's not the end of the world here. Okay, and already I can tell you I don't need a hose that long, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut it right about there, so I have enough hose to move the mount off and set it right here. I don't need to be able, that way I can still wrap it in here. Do not like how kinked this is though, so we're gonna find out if that's gonna be an issue or not. I'm trying to look here. There's not really an area on here that isn't messed up. Now there's this section right here. But anyway, we'll just try it. We're gonna go ahead and cut to about there. Hoping the water pressure will open it up a little bit. It might over time. So cool, that gives us enough room. We can wrap it nicely in there and get around it. Okay, here comes the not so fun part. So I'm putting the hose clamp on right there. Ah! I don't know if you can see it. Yes, you can. It's really heavy. So I'm gonna slide it right on this copper pipe that's embedded in the concrete here. There's our hose clamp. Let's get on there nice and there we go. All the way in there. Hose clamp it on. Might be kind of kinked. We might have hose problems. I'm gonna find out here in a little bit. Anyway, we're gonna fill it up with some water. So we have it on right now. Okay, it's making a humming noise, which isn't good. It's the kinked hose. That's why. All right, we're gonna turn this off. I gotta shorten this hose. All right, looks like I got it. I had to shorten the tube about this much. I'm gonna adjust the pressure on it. All right, we got it on the maximum setting. It's gonna shoot up like a water jet. Check it out. As you can see, it turned out pretty nice here. We got our flower pots that were given to me for free. I don't have any plants in them yet. It's too late in the season. Got our fountain running. And we have it going all the way down over here to our other end of the garden here. We got 2 more flower pots that we put in. So overall, I think it turned out pretty nice and on a pretty cheap budget. And the cool thing is this is upgradable. So if you want more flowers or anything like that, you can always, they make these giant flower boxes you can lay on top. So you don't always have to put your flowers in the bed itself. So it allows you to kind of mix and match and see what you want to add more later. We might add 2 pots behind these around the fountain later. I don't know, just some ideas I want to throw out there. All right, we're also gonna be treating the fountain. This is Fountech Algae Clarifier for fountains. Gives you the charts on the back here. So we have a clean fountain, so 1 drop for every gallons. I'd say this is between 4 and 5 gallons. You can check by using a gallon milk jug that you may have that you empty out and just kind of visualize it that way. So we're gonna play it safe. We're gonna put in 4 drops, which is about 4 gallons worth. If we don't see good results, then we'll bump it up to 5 drops. And then weekly, I got to do it, 10 to 20 drops, well, for 10 gallons, or 1 to 2 drops for weekly maintenance on 1 gallon. So we're going to do the initial right now. All right, let's do 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got like a bluish color to it. It should dissipate here in a few minutes. All right, I want to give everybody a quick cost rundown of how much this project cost me. So go through it here. Keep in mind, I received some stuff for free, and I'll get to that in a sec. So first things first, the scallops was a total of $56.67 with tax. Landscape fabric was $26.77. The staples was another $15.97. I ordered 1 cubic yard of river rock, which was $58.48. With the fountains, I had the fountain paver that I bought, which is this paver right here. Don't mind the leak, I overfilled the fountain a little bit. But that was $7.56. The fountain plug, the smart plug back there, was $20.54. You could have saved a couple bucks if you got the normal timer one. The fountain clamps was $3.88. Fountain pump was $28.14. So the total for everything on this build was $218.01. However, without the fountain stuff, you're looking at $157.89. So things I got for free I already had. So let me list those. Half the scallops were already given to me. So half of them you saw me do the build, I was given. I didn't pay anything for them. A quart of the river rock I already had on hand. All the small pavers, little 1-foot pavers, I received for free from a family member as well. 1 quart of the landscape fabric that went out to a little bit past this fountain, I already had on hand. And then the concrete fountain, the base, got my hands wet. This whole setup here, aside from the pump, obviously, I received for free. I was given by a family member. Also, the flower pots were also given by a family member. If you don't have a family member to give you these things, thrifting or yard sales is a good option to acquire these things at a major discount if you're on a budget. If you're on a major budget, you don't have room to splurge, I would recommend just getting scallops put up and leaving just a dirt bed and then maybe putting pots in there and pulling the weeds out. That's a really cheap option if you want to go that route. The cool thing is you can do this in phases. You don't have to do it all at once. One last thing I want to plug here, and that is, I've not been very happy with this smart plug that I got from Home Depot. It uses the HubSpace app. Now, the landscape live video you guys will be seeing in a few weeks, I'll be going more into detail on that, but one thing I noticed is it works fine. However, when you set schedules up for when you want this plug to turn on and when you want it to turn off, it doesn't work half the time. In fact, at all. The only time it really works is if you want to manually turn it on or turn it off. You can't get it to work with schedules for whatever reason. Same thing with the lights. The lights, it's kind of, it works sometimes, it doesn't. However, when I went through the Google Home that's on here, I went through that way, it works just fine. So I've been controlling this using the Google Home app instead of using the schedule app on the HubSpace. Now you still need to download HubSpace, have that running because it talks to it, but like all your routines and stuff can be run through Google Home instead of the HubSpace app. I found that to be a lot more reliable. So I want to mention that. If you're not tech savvy, you don't mind it, get a regular timer one, you're gonna be a lot happier with that. Just saying, just wanted to point that out there. So also check out my landscape lights video. I'll be putting that out in a few weeks. I'll be putting that card somewhere here on the screen. Check it out. It's a pretty cool build. One advantage is when you save money doing these kind of projects, you can splurge on some other stuff, and that's what I did in that video. So check it out. It'll be released here in a few weeks. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, you guys, take care.